Unit 6, page 3, Reproductive Hormones. Finish the following statements. Hormones are blank. Hormones work by blank. Pause the video here and press play when you're ready to check your responses. Okay, so you're ready to check your responses. Hormones are chemical messengers. Hormones work by traveling through the blood and attaching to receptors on target cells. Remember that the hormones are going to fit the shape of the receptors on the target cells. Hormones have a specific shape that matches with specific receptors. Remember, shape determines function. Okay, we're going to take a look at some of the male and female reproductive hormones. So the male sex hormone, the main male sex hormone, is testosterone. It's produced in the testes. The target organs include the vocal cords, the skin, and muscles. The main effect is it stimulates sperm production and causes male secondary sex characteristics. So again, we are talking about sperm production. The female sex hormones, the first one we're going to talk about is FSH, which stands for the follicle stimulating hormone. FSH is produced in the pituitary gland, which is part of the brain. The target organs include the ovaries. FSH is going to stimulate egg follicle to begin maturing or growing. Another female sex hormone is estrogen. Estrogen is produced within the ovary. Target organs include the uterus, breast, bones, and skin. The effect of estrogen is stimulating the lining of the uterus to thicken in preparation for a fertilized egg. It's also responsible for secondary sex characteristics including breast development, widening of the hips, pubic hair, and underarm hair. The next female sex hormone that we're going to talk about is LH, or luteinizing hormone. It's also produced in the pituitary gland in the brain, just like FSH, and similarly, its target organ is the ovaries. The effect is it stimulates ovulation. Now, ovulation is the release of an egg into the fallopian tube. This typically will happen once during a woman's cycle each month. It also stimulates the growth of the corpus luteum. The next female sex hormone we're going to talk about is progesterone. It's produced in the ovaries, and the target organs include the uterus. The effect of progesterone on the uterus is that it increases the blood supply to the lining of the uterus, which prepares for a fertilized egg. It also, throughout pregnancy, is going to maintain that uterine lining to be thick and rich with blood and nutrients for the developing embryo. So if we look at the diagram here provided, we'll see that a woman's menstrual cycle is typically about 28 days. Now this can be more or less depending on the individual female. You'll notice in the middle we have something called ovulation. Ovulation, again, is when the ovaries are going to release a mature egg, and this is controlled by hormones. So if we look here, in the beginning of a woman's cycle starts with her menses or her period. After the period, we're going to have increases in what's called the LH, or luteinizing hormone. So there's a spike in the luteinizing hormone right before the egg is released at ovulation. Similarly, FSH will also increase slightly, and these both are going to, again, stimulate the egg being released from the ovary. If we look at what happens to the uterus lining, what do we see happening to the uterine lining throughout a woman's cycle? We see that it is increasing. And the reason it's increasing is it's preparing for a fertilized egg that can be then embedded in the uterine wall. Throughout the egg development, again, we see the follicle growing and growing until it will be released at ovulation. And then for the ovarian hormones, we'll see that estrogen slowly increases until it's at its peak around ovulation. Progesterone, though, peaks after ovulation, and this is primarily because progesterone is involved in developing the uterus so that it can prepare for that fertilized egg. And so this would happen obviously after ovulation, because after fertilization occurs, the progesterone needs to be there to support the uterine lining. We're taking a look at this concept map. We see that the reproductive glands, we have ovaries and testes. Ovaries, remember, are found in females, good, and testes are found in males. So we have ovaries are going to produce the female sex hormones as well as eggs. Similarly, testes are going to produce the male sex hormones, and they're going to produce the counterpart known as sperm. So female sex hormones, two of them that we need to be familiar with are estrogen and progesterone. For male sex hormones, testosterone. Now, testosterone is necessary for the production of sperm. And we're going to have estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. All are going to cause different things. So estrogen is what causes the female secondary sex characteristics. It also supports the uterine lining. Progesterone is primarily involved with the uterine lining, but also prepares the overall uterus for the fertilized egg. Testosterone is involved in sperm production as well as causes secondary sex characteristics in males. Now, let's take a look at the Regents question. The data table below indicates the presence of specific reproductive hormones in blood samples taken from 3 individuals. An X in the hormone column indicates a positive lab test for the appropriate levels necessary for normal reproductive functioning in that individual. Which process could occur in individual 3? So take a minute to think about which process would occur in individual 3. You'll notice that individual 3 has testosterone, but very little progesterone and estrogen since they're not marked in the table. Which process would occur with somebody that is producing testosterone? Well, if we look at our concept map, we'll see testosterone is necessary for sperm production. Therefore, the answer should be 1, production of sperm only. So take a few minutes now and form your summary. Think about 2 questions you can ask about the reproductive hormones and provide their answers on your paper.